ref. That she got the ball. Good afternoon, Tottenham fans. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave, Martin, Soren, and Steve. I think Jack will be joining a little bit later on. You know, you got to let him get up and get his coffee and stuff like that. But we are back here today because Spurs are back in action. It is North London versus East London. Tottenham versus West Ham is another London derby, and it's a big one today. It is a rivalry, and there's a lot of pressure on both managers going into this game. You would argue, I think a lot of people are dubbing this El Sacco as well, so hopefully we come out the right side of it. But look, absolutely massive game today, and we'll just get straight into it, and I'll bring in comments as we go along. We'll start with you, Martin. I mean, it's another London derby today, like I said. North London versus East London, Tottenham versus West Ham. What's the overriding emotion right now ahead of kickoff? Because I know you're from that sort of area. And is there genuine confidence because of the opposition and West Ham's position in the table today? Or is there real tension because derbies so often sort of ignore form and logic going into it?
Yeah, for me, it's the latter. It's, for me personally, obviously, the Chelsea, the Arsenal, they're the big ones as Spurs fans. But obviously, for me, coming from their area, it's the big personal one for me because 90% of my mates are West Ham. But yeah, it's one of them. It could be on paper, looking at it, it should be a boring 0-0 with two teams that ain't got a clue how to go forward. But they never really turn out like that. Like the 3-3 we had the other year and things like that. It's just West Ham can turn up for Tottenham. It's probably the one team they can turn up for. But we've done them earlier on in the season at their place quite convincingly. The fans left early. It was a great day. But looking at it, I think they've had a week to train. No disruptions. They've had a new player come in. There's a little buzz around them. So I'm fully expecting a good attacking, convincing win today, and I don't want nothing less.
It'd be very interesting to see how the fans react today, because when you go back to that 3-0 earlier on this season, it was 0-0 at half-time, and then we sort of had that 20-minute spell after half-time. It'd be interesting to see what the crowd is like 0-0 if it goes in 0-0 at half-time. And it'd be interesting.
We can't get to that position, can we? I think we've got to go from the start. It can't be that, because what will happen, the nerves will kick in, the boos will start, the players drop their heads. All it has to be, the fans will turn up today. So then it's up to the team to turn up from the start. They'll carry that momentum all the way through. The place will be buzzing if we're 1-2-0 up at half-time. But if we're giving them any chance to go in at half-time and Nuno go, right, now let's have a little go for 15 minutes, they nick that 1-0, it could be a long day. So I don't think there's any excuses. And Frank has got, you know, the two London derbies with Chelsea, Arsenal, he sat back, 5 at the back, all that rubbish. This is a London derby. You can't do that at. This has got to be, if we can't beat these today in the form they're in, forget our form, but the form they're in, they're not very good. They're not very good. So we've got no excuses. This can't be, we've got better players than us. It just can't be one of them days. It just can't.
It's either going to be a cracker or else, you know, it's going to be so boring. Two counter-attacking teams sort of, you know, punching off the ropes and stuff. It'd be very interesting to see how it goes. But just one or two more follow-up questions for you, Martin. Does the constant turbulence maybe around the club, the league position, the pressure on the manager, the inconsistency in terms of performances and results maybe dull the excitement for a game like this today?
Possibly. But I think he's had a week to just get everything out of the system. I think he's been told he's being backed. Well, that's what Lisa's saying. So it should be a little bit pressure off. We're down where we are. It can't get much worse from his point of view. And, you know, I hope he just gets on board and sees, like with the last game, you know, you see the momentum swings and that. But our momentum swing come after we made a goal out of nothing. It wasn't a tactical change for me. It was the players just took it by a scruff of the neck. So as long as he gives them instructions to go forward and have the confidence, you know, we should throw our form out the window and just go for it. There's just no excuses. You can't be scared of them. If he's worried about them like he normally is other teams, then he really ain't going to have a chance.
I think Tom Lowry says it perfectly here. Frank ball versus Nuno ball, not one for the neutrals today. Anti-football
Yeah, no Super Sunday for this one, is
You might have to watch behind the couch on this one, Tom. Last question for you, Martin. Do you think you're expecting to be entertained or just desperate for 3 points? Whatever way it looks, just a win, basically.
No, normally I'd sit here and say, yeah, I don't care about the performance. It's just about the result. But I think today it's got to be a collective, convincing, attacking performance. All the players running. I think Gallagher's going to bring that energy in the midfield that we lack. I think he's the sort of player that he's a bit of Bentancur, a bit of Gray, a bit of Bergvall. He's the all-round of all them three mixed together. And the Paolini are doing the defensive stuff. And if he can, Paolini behind him, if we're going to think that, and then he can do a bit more of a box-to-box and feed Xavi. Xavi's got no one to give him the ball. He's picking up his own half and then passing it back. If they all just get the ball turned and look forward, then, I think it could be a good day.
Yeah, I hope so. I think we all hope it's going to be a good day today. I think there's a bit of feedback there. Oh, it's gone now. It's gone. Down to you, Stevie. I mean, let's put the league table front and center. I mean, Spurs come into this game 14th on 27 points. West Ham are 18th on 14 points. How important is it that Tottenham win tonight, simply just to create that bit of breathing space from that bottom three?
Oh man, it's vastly important. As a matter of fact, I would probably go out and say that Spurs are actually going to be desperate for the 3 points. Make no mistake that this is El Sacco 100%, right? Both teams that are probably going to kind of throw out the game plan and try to get forward and try to score as many goals as possible. And when you think about West Ham, 7 points adrift from safety, they're going to be desperate as well too. And I think Martin hit it right on the head. This is the type of match where Thomas Frank can't just show so much respect for West Ham to the point where they're going to start off slow. This can't be one of these type of games that we've seen over the course of the last couple of months where we get off to an absolute dog shit start and then try to chase the game in the second half. Because what's going to end up happening is exactly what Martin said, is you're going to hear the boo birds at halftime. And it's going to be one of those type of situations where we're going to see what we saw against Sunderland, where all of a sudden, we let the game get away from us, and all of us, and now all of us have to make excuses again. So for Spurs, this is like actually kind of like a gut check or a shed moment of the season, where it's like, if you can't put together a full 90 against West Ham, I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to validate everything that we think about this team.
You're mute, Dave.
I think you're on mute, bud.
Sorry, this is West Ham team that lost to Wolves 3-0 there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Lost to Nottingham Forest, who were also down in around there. Barely beat QPR, in the FA Cup and stuff like that. So it's not a West Ham team in great form, but I would argue a win over someone like Tottenham could almost give them the momentum and that sort of belief that they need to maybe claw their way out of it. So we can't afford to lose there today and maybe be dragged down into that. For me, it's all about winning and just keeping that separated. Because if we win today, you're definitely not getting relegated. And then all of a sudden, it's just about how we push up the table rather than looking over our shoulder. And I think that's the important thing about it today. But just to follow up for you, Stevie, I mean, West Ham have won just once away from home all season. On paper, this looks like the kind of fixture that Spurs have to win. Does that make tonight a must-win for Tottenham, or does it actually increase, the pressure, knowing anything less than 3 points will be seen as failure? Do you think the players be able to stand up to that pressure?
I think it's all of the above, right? And again, I think this is a gut check for these players as well too, and understand this is the same cast of characters that whether we agree with this or not, they got Ange Postecoglou fired, and now they're on the brink of doing it again, right? And we saw it in the second half against Aston Villa that this team can show up when it wants to show up. And so from that standpoint, it's about that mentality, right? Showing up expecting to win. From the opening whistle, putting in a shift that is going to get those fans on their side, right? Because again, if we start out the same way that we've started it out, and then all of a sudden heads are dropping, the boo birds are coming out, it's going to increase the pressure on these players to the point where we're going to start seeing post game fights again like that. We're going to see shouting in between players and all this other nonsense to the point where Thomas Frank is going to have to ask, he's going to be asked these same questions about whether or not there's, discipline issues within the ranks, right? That's the last thing that this club absolutely needs. So yeah, I would probably say today is going to be one of those watershed moments where we find out everything there is to know about these players.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they've got to stand up today. I know the home record is poor and all, and we'll get into that a bit later on, but they have to stand up and show something today.
Also, remember, we went into that Bournemouth match against a team that hadn't won in 11 Premier League matches, and we gift wrapped them 3 points, and so that's the biggest reason why I'm a little worried about today.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. I fully do understand that. Alpesh is on his way to the game on the train, and he's going to the change demo. So fair play to you, Alpesh. Hopefully you have a good day out. You can enjoy the game, and fair play to you for turning up to the demonstration and doing your part on your way to the game. So fair play to you, and hopefully we get the win for you today, my man. Big up, Alpesh. Soren, down to you, sir. I mean, this game is far more than just 3 points. It's bragging rights, momentum, and the wider narrative around the club as well. How important is it that Spurs set the tone early tonight rather than allowing West Ham to grow into the game?
These derby games are those games that none of us want to play and everybody wants to see. No excuses. There is no excuses. Derby day is not about form. It's not about who's playing better, who's playing worse. It's not about who's been scoring, who's been keeping clean sheets. It's purely about who wins on the day. And today is when we see whether boys can become men. It's as simple as that. This team owes everything to these fans today, and we haven't had a good season, and the football has been shocking, and there's no excuses. Today is a day where these guys have to come out and show us that they are professional footballers, and they are playing for the team, they are playing for the badge, and they are playing for the fans. On the other hand, today is a day where we really need the fans to stay behind the team as well. We need those fans to sing till the 90th minute or whatever. And look, if it's been a shit game, boo at the end. There's no disrespecting that, but we really do need everybody pulling in the right direction today. And West Ham is one of those. How many times over the last few seasons have we played West Ham and we've been probably the more informed team, or we've been playing better and they've come and beat us? And today is not a day we can allow that. And also today is not a day where we've got to sit back and let them have a chance. We've got to take it to them, and we've got to show them that you've come to our ground, you've come to our place, you're in North London, and you're going to go home with your head between your tails. And look, we can't beat Chelsea, so we've gone and got Mr. Chelsea instead. So now we've got no excuses. This guy is going to show, hopefully, this team how to play football. And it's just a day where there's no excuses. I can't think of an excuse. And I tell you what, it's not about coming out and winning 1-0. It's not about just scraping over the line. Today has got to be everything. Today has got to be a football match where Tottenham fans can come out of it and say, we've won them 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, whatever, but we've actually spanked them off the field as well. I keep hearing that it's not about performance today. And I mean, I said it the other day, it's not about, I was saying it was about performance. Today, we have got to spank West Ham off that pitch. And if Nuno loses his job, I don't give a monkey's shit. Today is the day we go from boys to men.
And that's the thing about football. It's a wonderful thing. No matter the period you're in, all of a sudden, if you can just get a big win in a derby and not just scrape by, like you said, but really take it to them, all of a sudden that can really change the course of belief, momentum, etc. And then all of a sudden you start picking up results off the back of it, going on little runs. Then you start climbing the table and everything else. So I certainly agree with that. But then, Soren, I mean, how important then is the first goal today in this game, given both teams are going in low of confidence? I think it's fair to say about both teams, once they concede, they don't really have that bounce back ability or the ability to be able to come back, and their heads will drop. So in that regard, how important is the first goal in today's game?
I mean, the first goal is generally always important. It doesn't matter
Do you
who
think
you
it defines the game today, whoever scores it?
No, I don't. I think what it probably does is if we score first and we score early as well, the fans are, suddenly become buoyant and they get on top. The other problem I sometimes find is when you score first and if you score early, the other team then picks up what they've got to do. So as much as I don't want them to score first, it will show the character of our team. If they score and we come straight back and we go on to batter them, I don't care. If it's from a corner, if they're all over us and they score first, then the fans' heads are going to drop, the players' heads are going to drop, and it's end of day. But yeah, look, to me, we score in 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then we score every 10, 15 minutes after that. I don't care. Well, whatever the result is, we've got to come out as winners, and we've got to show that we are the team in North London. We are the team in London, never mind North London. We've got to show that we're up and coming, and all this talk about a new dawn at Tottenham Hotspur starts today. It's got to start today.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And for me, I just think the first goal is crucial. I think, for instance, with the atmosphere and the sort of fragile, mentality right around the club on match day and stuff, I think if West Ham score, I think it almost gives them the belief they need to go on and sort of, take something from this game. And I think then all of a sudden the fans' head drops, the players' head drop, Frank's head drops. So everyone's sitting there going, oh, here we are again, heading for another defeat at home. And I'd like to sit here and say I have belief in the team to be able to bounce back and go and grab something if that happens. But I don't. When was the last time they've shown that? When was the last time they've shown that belief? So that's why I think the first goal is so important that we score it today. And on that, I want us to see us actually go for it and not sit back off West Ham.
Right.
Yeah, see, I'm not worried that if West Ham go 1-0 up, we can't get back in the game. What worries me is the fans will turn like that, the stadium becomes negative, and then the atmosphere changes, then the players' mindset changes, and then it's hard. Football team against football team, if they go 1-0 up, I'm confident we will go and get more. But it's the sway of the crowd and the whole then they're all together at half time and going off the pitch together, and we're going back to the bad things that have been happening. So I say, footballing ways, I don't think us going 1-0 down should bother us, but as a collective of what the whole thing will do, it will be so much better. At 10 minutes, we go 1-0 up, 25 minutes, 2-0 up, go in half time. Then it's a different game completely.
But Martin, the first goal, especially at home, the first goal is absolutely massive because it actually breeds some confidence, some momentum getting forward to try to get that second goal. When we concede the first goal, then all of a sudden we press, and then we get tentative, and then and then all of a sudden we sit back. And we're not as confident getting forward to the point where we have problems scoring goals from the from the run of play. And then all of a sudden, we're like with 15 minutes left, we're going to try to get numbers forward, and we'll.
Yeah, but that's when the crowd's not screaming every misplaced pass, every misplaced, and it just all builds up. And then
it snowballs. Yeah, it snowballs from there. And one of the biggest things that I want to see today is I want to see us put the sword to West Ham, because it's something we haven't seen this year. Like I want it to be so convincing where we all turn to each other and say, you know what, I get what Thomas Frank is actually trying to do. You know what I mean? Like that is my goal for today, and it's the biggest if. I'm kind of like in Dave's corner right here because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen any inkling of any type of pushing on as a club at all this year, to the point where it's like I'm skeptical, and I'm in that corner where I'll believe it when I see it, and I hate being in that position. But that being said, it's like that first goal, that first goal could actually change the entire complexity of this match.
Yeah, and you mentioned it yourself. The reason why I have no faith in us being able to come back is because when we're chasing games, you said it yourself, sloppy passes. I mean, simple passes rolling out over the side for a throw in. Then we get caught into giving them away silly free kicks, which means they're rolling around, buying time, ticking down the clock and stuff like that. The first goal is so important tonight. But we are going to get on to, style of play, because I know the way everyone wants us to play, but whether Thomas Frank will actually not respect West Ham like he has done every other opponent this year and actually take the reins off and say, guys, fucking go for it, remains to be seen. But I do want to get in and talk about the home form before we get into style of play. I just want to welcome some people in here quickly. We have Adrian in the house. Good afternoon, Adrian. I suppose you're putting on the shoes in a while and walk around the corner to the game. Big up, Adrian. Good to see you. We've also got Cyprus Spurs in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. We've also got William Webb. 3-0 tonight. Well, I'd take that. I think many people would take that tonight, William. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Means we can go into the rest of the weekend and enjoy it for once. It's been a long time. Big up, Jason. He says 1-1 today. That's how shit Frank got us playing. We've got Niall O'Connor. Big up, lads. Looking forward to the show. We should be getting 3 points today, but West Ham are also going to think they can get something from us with the way we are playing. Both teams are capable to implode. Well, I think it was Soren that said it, Traditionally, we go into this game in better form than West Ham and stuff like that, but they always turn up for it, always, and they always give us a difficult game. Now, you would argue maybe more away from home than actually at home in recent years, but the warning signs are there. You come in 10% off it or not wanting it, they will turn you over, so we have to want this today. Big up, Exactly. Well, we've got no cup finals this year to look forward to. So might be ours as well this year, Martin. We've got Tom Lowry in the house. Good to see you, Tom.
Excuse me, we have got a cup final to look forward to. Champions League. What the hell are you on about? We're still in it.
It's Dermot here. It's Dermot here.
Could barely beat Bodo. I've no faith.
This time last year, you were all saying we weren't going to win the Europa League. Look what happened then. So come on, have a bit of faith.
Yeah, you're a beauty.
That's true.
You're an absolute beauty, sir.
Yeah. Big up, Binny guy as well. Good to see you. We've got the resident happy clapper, Leighton Evelyn. Good to see you. Says, no way we lose today. I love that. From Leighton, J-Mac is in the build as well. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Along with Shem Tam as well. He's going with 3-1. A must-win El Sakako today. We've got Benny Falcon in the house. He says, this is a game we should win. But we said the same thing against Bournemouth. And we all know how that turned out. Absolutely spot on. Who else we got here? We've also got Tony Bones in the house. If you're going to the game, support the lads. Come on, you Spurs. Colin is in the building. Davies has turned Tell's game around. I can see him playing today. Well, we'll definitely get into lineup questions in just a little bit, Colin. J-Max is spot on, Soren. We can't lose to this mob. King Hoddle says you win the midfield battle. You beat them. Simple as that. Their defense is poor, nowhere near the level of ours. To be honest with you, I'd like to see us expose that Kyle Walker-Peters today. Wasn't good enough for us. You know, we exposed them before, and it's another avenue to be able to get at them today. We also have Mark P in the house. Got offered 2 free tickets from a very famous club legend I know. Hospitality as well. Turn them down. Sad, isn't it? Just can't be bothered at the moment. There's a lot more people out there like you, Mark. Look, you look at the game now. You know they can't even sell out the stadium. We haven't sold out one Champions League game yet, and that's supposed to be the big money draw. You know, you look at every game now. There's pockets of empty seats all around the stadium. People are just fed up with what they're watching. At the end of the day, you know. Yes, we're loyal to this club, and yes, we love to this club. But when people are shelling out the money they are, because the club just got it's just the price of a ticket. No, it's not. It's the train. It's a bit of food. You know, everything else that adds it up to a really expensive trip. And at this point, you've got to be inspired by what you're seeing on the pitch. That gets bums in seats. And, you know, the fact that a lot of fans aren't already shows. So I do not blame you, Mark, to be honest with you. Hopefully, he can offer you them for another game. But also goes to show, if he's got 2 free tickets like that for a West Ham game, how many more people ain't going like you, Mark, as well, which is sad to see. But I understand it at the end of the day. We've also got Richard Healy Coffee all the way from the Kingdom of Kerry. Good to see you, my man. Have you got one of them big Kerry accents? Let me know. And we've also got Kerry King in the house afternoon all. Looking forward to this one. Come on, you Spurs. In Gallagher, we trust, and we will have plenty of conversation around Gallagher in a little while as well. I do want to talk about the home form, guys. I mean, Tottenham have just won 4 of their last 24 Premier League home games, drawn 6, lost 14, and only 2 wins at home this season, the lowest ever after 10 games. So we thought it was bad on their hands. Frank has managed to break that yet again, breaking all the bad records, which I thought was going to be impossible after how many hands break. But, I mean, we'll start with you on this one, Soren. I mean, how damaging has this poor home form been, you know, for belief in terms of both in the stands and on the football pitch? It's just a mess at the minute at home. It's an absolute mess.
It's just an absolute mess. And I kind of think you can you can almost trace it all the way back to when, you know, all the boos, all the leave you out songs, the absolute dismay, and it's the fans have just lost all patience. It's as simple as that. But, you know, you can understand it because the performances haven't been there. You kind of thought after winning the Europa League last year that the team would probably kick on a little bit this year and there might be a bit more belief, and you've got a new manager in, you've got, you know, it's just got worse. And, you know, I mean, we've asked this question so many times, you know, what is it about playing at home that the team just don't like? And, you know, we've kind of said pressure and, you know, the fans and things like that. And I don't know, it just takes a little spark. And I mean, the majority of these players probably haven't actually played at our stadium with an absolute cracking atmosphere there. You know, it's you kind of look at them all and think none of them have shown, you know, been shown how good it can be at what keep wanting to say White Hart Lane. Bloody hell.
Always be one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there hasn't been many really good atmospheres at the ground for a long time.
Since we opened it, really. Let's be brutally
well, I mean,
honest.
the last real atmosphere I can remember was the Arsenal game, where you know, we battered them basically, and that you kind of just feel
you
that.
were at the game last week, right?
Me?
Or at the weekend? Yeah, were you at the Aston Villa game?
Unfortunately.
And what did you think of what was your experience at home that day?
Disappointing.
What was the atmosphere around?
It was all right, and then it sort of went dull, and then it was in waves, and it's the first time I've kind of been at a game where you would have sworn we weren't at home almost because there was such little noise. You know, I mean, like I say, in parts of it was electric, and then, you know, other parts it was just, don't know. You could feel tension. You could feel the fans around me. We were talking to one or two people around me, and we were all sort of saying, we just don't expect anything anymore. You know.
Sorry, can I ask about the Villa fans? Because on the telly, all we could hear was the Villa fans, and it was real. I know they get more, but I've been in the stadium and you get that little corner and they generate a lot of noise. But how was it when they had pretty much right across? Were they loud?
You could hear them. You could hear them. And that's like I say, at some, you know, sometimes you just felt, like I say, you didn't feel at home. You didn't feel like you were playing at home. And it was one of those where, like I say, it's probably the worst atmosphere I've been in at a Tottenham game, but not because there wasn't any singing or not, but because you almost felt like it was forced. You almost felt like the singing, you had to do it rather than you wanted to do it. And I think that was the difference. And look, the team, you watched them, and you could see the nervousness in the players. You know, they didn't look fluent. It was just one of those games where I mean, I came away thinking there's nothing about that game I want to remember. There is nothing about that game that I want to remember. And, you know, you walk into that stadium and it's eye-opening. I mean, it's a bit different for people maybe going every game, but, you know, for somebody like me who doesn't get there very often, you walk in and you look around, and it was a better atmosphere as you walked in than it was when it was, you know, when the crowd was in. And
because reality ain't kicked in yet.
Let me ask you, when we did show a bit of a revival and a bit of spark in the second half, did that get the Spurs fans up and going?
I mean, there was, you know, like I say, it came in spits and span. You know, 1 minute there was some good singing and you felt a little bit of electric. But again, for me, even when we were playing well-ish, it didn't feel natural. You know, it almost felt like you had to stand and sing, or you had to, you know, you didn't. I mean, I've been in games are at matches where the singing, every hair on your body is standing up because it's so electric. Whereas that, it was just like you were singing, and but you looked round and there were people just sort of stood almost miserable. Yeah. Even when we played well, people were just, it just didn't look like.
Shows the lack of belief, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, that's the perfect thing. It was almost waiting for it to go wrong again. Even when we were playing well, you didn't think it was going to be sustainable, and you didn't think we would win the game. Yeah. And you spoke to one or two people, and I don't know, nobody really felt as though they were very confident in winning that game.
So the fans we see on the YouTube sphere and all that are getting a bit of bad press about all being negative, but you're saying you're feeling that from the match day going fans as well. So it is a bigger sample size for you now, not just seeing with us, but actually feeling it and seeing it and talking to people in the stadium. It is across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where it sounds stupid. It almost felt like you were stood next to the away fans for the, as though you're just waiting for someone to kick off. It just didn't feel like a happy place. I mean, I can remember going to White Hart Lane and even Wembley and away games, and you were surrounded by a group of people that wanted to be there. Yeah. They wanted to sing, they wanted to shout, they wanted to support the team. Whereas it felt like you was almost in a position where you were sat with the away fans and you didn't want to celebrate your own team type thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
The thing is as well, I don't think it's just lack of belief in the playing squad and the manager. I think it's a wider club issue as well. Lack of belief that people at board level are going to bring in the necessary signings to try and put this right and stuff. Which it's a sad place to be, really. Yeah. It is a sad place.
This is what we say when people say, the players should be professional and they should perform whatever. But you could feel the tension. And that's just, I mean, that's stood in with the fans. If you're the ones on the field trying to entertain the fans, and you can feel the trepidation from them, I wouldn't want to be on that field personally, because, I mean, I've sat here before and said you can understand sometimes the players don't want the ball, or that, they daren't try certain passes, or they daren't try this, or they don't want to do that. And, they're passing backwards rather than going forwards. And you can kind of understand it when you've been in that atmosphere, because it was the amount of
time to make a mistake, don't they?
Well, this is it. The amount of times that you actually kind of heard,
I was going to say, because that's when curmudgeonry kind of sets in, where fans show up out of spite with a bad taste in their mouth, and it just creates organically, it almost creates a hostile situation. But what I don't appreciate from Thomas Frank is all this talk about building a fortress and building a fortress and building a fortress, and then purposely doing yourself a disservice by respecting your opponent too much and then setting your team up to be far too pragmatic, and it only exasperates the situation when fans show up, right? Like if you want to build a fortress, just give it a go. With the handbrake off, and just allow your players within the confines of how you want to play, just release them, and just have the football be free. And then at that stage when fans are looking at it like, oh, hang on, this is something a little bit different, and it kind of, from that point, it actually organically energizes the crowd, because now all of a sudden there's a reason to actually get behind it instead of showing up kind of like
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, King Oddle made a comment earlier in the chat. You win the midfield. Now, the first 6, 7, 8 games under Frank, we bossed that. We had a solid midfield, and we looked 100 times better. And then now the midfield is probably the weakest point on the field. It just doesn't seem to be gelling anymore. And you go back to when Ange was in charge, and people slated Ange because all he ever said was, "Not, we don't care how the opposition play, we'll play our way." And now all of a sudden, it's now the opposite of that. It's like, well, see how the opposition are going to play. We're going to play defensively to stop them. And you kind of think, this is the problem. We've gone, again, from one extreme to another.
Yep.
We need to know our identity. There is no identity in this team.
That's the big problem. That is the big problem. There is no identity at Tottenham Hotspur. Our identity is whatever the manager's identity is, and what he's known for, whether that's pragmatic football, attacking football. The club need to set a sort of principle of the way they want to play, and you bring in your people accordingly around that, and all of a sudden you will start seeing much better shoots. But I do have a couple more questions around the home form I want to get to. I just want to welcome a couple more people in here. We've got Colin says, I'm going to the Newcastle game with my boys over from Oz. Can't wait. And look, I always say this to people, despite whatever atmosphere is around the club and stuff like that. If you are flying in and you don't get there often and it's not easy for you to go there and enjoy your day. Go there and enjoy the day with your sons. It'll be a memorable day. Try and enjoy it as best as you can. Now, I'll admit, I am one of them. The result does dictate my day out at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. If we lose, I go home absolutely miserable. If we win, I'm buzzing. What a trip. Can't wait to get back again. But please, enjoy your day, my man. We've also got Joff in the house. Joff, how are you keeping, my man? Hopefully you're keeping well and recovering as well. Big up, Joff. Good to see you, and hopefully the kids are well. We've also got Brandon. I think if we win today, it's not because of Frank, it's because West Ham are not very good. That's a fair point. We've got Wembley 1. Says, afternoon all, big game today. Gallagher is going to make a huge difference today from midfield. I am sure a lot of people very excited to see Conor Gallagher in action today. Big up Wembley 1. Are you at the game? Let me know. Big up Mr. Fraser as well, the midfield general. Good to see you in the building. William Webb says 180 watching, 33 likes. Come on, show some support. Well, guys, if you do like these shows, smashing that like button really, really lets us know that. So if you could do that, and it'll help us out massively. We've got Victoria Harris. Come on, you Spurs. Great channel. Cheers, guys. 3-1, my opinion. Let's do this. I mean, there's a lot of Harrises popping up lately into the chat. My last name is the same as well. I think my dad must have been a busy boy at some stage.
He's like Uncle Albert in Ford and Horses.
The Harris Army is out in full force today.
When I was growing up, no one had my last name. Now all of a sudden, people are flocking with my last name. Victoria, where are you from?
The Irish Army is a real thing.
It really is. And Ozzy Kai says, big up, Dave and the lads. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you guys. Look, guys, someone threw a question at me during one of my shows during midweek. I think it was Kieran out there, if you're listening. And I thought it was a very good question because the way he posed it, I thought he was on about maybe the financial side of the stadium, but then another guy on the panel sort of took it as, is it a hindrance in terms of the football at the stadium? I thought it was a very interesting observation. So, guys, I mean, does the new stadium itself help or hinder, our home form at this moment in time? Because some argue it's a cozy, comfortable arena rather than an intimidating place for opponents. Is that a factor in our struggles? And I'm not on about just about atmosphere, the way it's built. Usually when you go to other grounds around the country, the away dressing rooms are small, and it's purposely designed like that to almost make you feel uncomfortable for the game and stuff like that. Whereas with Tottenham, it's not. I've done the stadium tour. It's absolutely massive. There's everything there that they could want, they could ask for, and it's almost just makes them feel comfortable, sort of heading into the game. Also, with White Hart Lane, a lot of teams didn't like coming there. You look at the arena we've built, you'd argue, who wouldn't be self-motivated walking into that arena and sort of want to put on a show? So I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts from on the panel here.
Well, for me, I think it's both of them. Whatever the stadium is, whatever the size of the dressing room, it's our home. We should believe that and make it that. There's 55,000 of our fans in there. It's ours. We should own it. But what I think it does do is, especially the teams that have come up from the Championship and things like that, or like Bournemouth, they play in their little ground. No disrespect, but their little ground is in intimate, and they've got all that, and then they're coming here. To them, it's like going a day out at Wembley. That big thing of going to, because Wembley always was the pinnacle, wasn't it, of something different to a four-standard side, But now we're all getting these super stadiums, so they know they're never going to have one. So for the players and the fans, it's a good day. But I don't think there's no excuse for us to not think it's our home. We should make it ours. If the other teams are going to raise their bar to come and play there, then we must raise ours a bit. Do you know what I mean? So it's still ours, because at the minute, you know, as you said earlier, Dave, with the Anne's records last year, we didn't think it could get any worse. I think Frank to come in this year and go, right, look, lads, last year was really bad at home. It ain't hard for us to make it a bit more of a fortress. 50% more would make a massive difference. And as you say, he hasn't done it. He's missed that opportunity to galvanise the team and the fans in that stadium. Now, that's not coming from fans wanting to be negative or tourist fans wanting to come and see Sonny and all the other stuff that you want to add to it. This is purely the fans feel the way they do. There's already a negativity around the owners, and that's always been there. But Frank had a chance to change the feeling of the players and the fans at home. And then you see his negative tactics and his negative approach and things like that. And he's compounded what was already there, which he could have easily flipped around and changed. And now the ladder's a bigger ladder to climb now. So just for him to get back to where he was when he started at 0, he's got a long way to climb, where he could have just took a couple of steps forward and the atmosphere and the momentum would change. And I put that on him, because we've seen when the players do it, they can do it. I'm not saying they've got 90 minutes and they're world beaters, but like we got that goal out of nothing against Villa, and then all of a sudden the momentum swung. Xavi's getting the ball. Every time he got the ball in the first half, he gets the ball and he's facing his own goal and he plays it 5 yards back, then turns, don't get the ball. That second half, he was picking the ball up. I'm going to have a go, running, and then there's other people. It can be done, and then the atmosphere goes up a bit. But as Soren was saying, sitting there, it's all right. Oh, we'll get on board a little bit, but we don't want to go too far into this, because we know in 2 minutes' time there's going to be a stopping misplaced pass. It goes out, and we're all going to go, again. So he's missed that opportunity. But I do also think it comes from the players. The fans will go along with them. We're not just there booing and because we enjoy being pantomime crowd. It's they're seeing what they're seeing, and they're paying a lot of money for what they're seeing, and they're frustrated, and that's spilling over from the top, all the frustrations all the way through, and the players and the manager are at the bottom on the front line, and they're going to get that disrespect, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, if Frank would have just been a bit more attacking in his approach and give us a bit more to cling on to, it wouldn't be that way, and he would have made momentum rather than reverting backwards. So it's a two-way street, but the fans will go with you. You're playing good football. Them fans ain't going to stand there and boo you. They're going to be all over it.
But do you know what the biggest problem is? And look, obviously I'm one. It's British fans. You go to places like Leverkusen or Italy or Greece and places like that, and it is absolutely rocking. Kind of almost doesn't matter what the players are doing on the pitch. You watch games and you watch it in Argentina and Brazil, and
they all have ultras, don't they?
Yeah, but the fact, that's what our South Stand's meant to be. It's almost meant to be the Tottenham Ultras. That we missed a trick. That South Stand could have been a wall of white, and you get them bouncing, you get them jumping.
But that's where it was intended to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's one of the. That South Stand is. It's unbelievable. You look at that South Stand and you think, shit. That is what we need. That South Stand rocking, absolutely.
But if it ain't rocking, the away team go. Oh, it ain't no advantage, is it?
Where you say about players walking into that stadium. Yes, it's all nice and new and fancy and things like that, but that can also work in your advantage as well. They walk out there, and if they walk into a sea of noise, it's intimidating to them. And we sing, when the Spurs, and look, it's an absolutely fantastic song. And when you hear it being sung, the hairs on your back and on your arms do stand up, and it's electrifying. But you kind of, you go to like Leverkusen or places like that, and you see that yellow wall and that jumping, and it's like a chant, and it makes ours look like a bloody kiddie's birthday party. That's the difference, it's a totally different atmosphere, and that's kind of what you want at Tottenham. You want that walk in and feel intimidated. We had it against Arsenal. That game against Arsenal, the fans were absolutely incredible that day. The noise, the intimidation, you could see the Arsenal players did not want to be
they
there.
didn't fancy it.
They did not fancy it from the.
If you actually go and watch their documentary on Amazon, I think it's the very last episode of that documentary. They cover that game, and you could almost see the nervousness in the players' legs. They were shaking about and everything when they were getting that final team talk heading out there. You could hear the atmosphere already. To your point,
yeah. But I mean, there's. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's a clip on YouTube somewhere, and it was Argentinian fans in a shopping mall somewhere, and they were in like a food court, and there's a couple of thousand maybe, and they start doing the chant and the singing, and you just sit there and you think, that's not even my team, and shit, it's an absolutely fantastic clip. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long, and you can see the passion in them fans, and you think, you go to our place and it can be passionate. It can be absolutely electrifying. And there is no reason that stadium shouldn't be electrifying. But there's just nothing.
Is there a case to say, though, Soren, that maybe in some of them countries you're talking about, football is still more of a working man sport, whereas in the UK it's more of a premium sort of item now, and maybe that has something to do with it, because over the years there has been a massive conservative effort by the police to stamp out the hooliganism, which ultimately is what a lot of the ultras are sort of built around and stuff like that. And they are allowed to drink in stands in some other countries. You're not here, and you're not in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and all of that stuff does sort of go to helping the atmosphere a certain bit. And I just wonder, is that maybe some of the big difference, that in some of them countries it still really is a working man sport?
Well, this is what we've said before, Dave, that football has gone from being the working man's release. At the end of the week, you've had a hard day's work or a hard week's work, and you've gone and you want to release on the terraces and things like that. And yet, the sit down type thing and no standing kind of stuff and all that lot, it really does detract from how people are within the grounds. And, you can stand in football grounds in England and look around you, and it's, I'm not going to say men in suits, and I don't mean that disrespectful, but that's what it can, we talk about the prawn sandwich brigade and things like that, and that's kind of what us British fans are like a lot. You don't want to let yourself go, and you go to these games abroad, and like you say, it is more of a working man's thing, but then, like in Germany, the clubs are sort of fan-owned and things like that, whereas over here, how many times have we said football is not a game of passion anymore, it's a game of money. It's all about the money. And that, to me, is what has spoiled football, is the money. It's the wages, it's the more you pay a player, the more your ticket prices go up, your food prices go up. Like you said earlier, going to a match is not 60, 70 quid for a ticket. It's £700, £900 by the time you've got back home again. Yeah. And that's for me in living in the UK. I mean, I try to think what some of you guys are paying.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I paid. I'll tell you exactly what I paid. But here's the interesting thing, and I've been listening to this, and it almost sounds too familiar, because British fans, just like American fans, are kind of in the same boat, where it's like, what have you done for me lately type of attitude, where it's like, if you show ambition, fans will show up and they'll scream their heads off. But one of the things that has happened on top of the corporatization of football in the UK is the fact that Tottenham Hotspur have been a risk-averse club, and a risk-averse club breeds a risk-averse attitude when it comes to the fans. And when we've seen this team seriously, twist in certain seminal moments, it doesn't show the attraction of fans. And then, so from that standpoint, a stadium that was absolutely built for that type of atmosphere essentially falls on deaf ear. And when you consider the fact that the club has not reached out to its fans to inspire that type of atmosphere, and then you see the ticket prices continue to climb to the point where it literally just forces out the common working man to the point where he can't take his kids. And then you see the play on the field where this guy is continuously showing too much respect for his opponent and not actually focusing on exactly what he's supposed to do with his club to inspire that type of attitude. These are the things that we have to. These are the things that we put up with, where they're almost forcing when the Spurs go marching in just to try to get that atmosphere mid game because it's fallen so flat. You know what I mean? That's all these things. All these things have worked against the atmosphere of the stadium, and so from that standpoint, it kind of plays against us. But that being said, as Soren mentioned, we actually have seen an atmosphere that kind of rivals anything over across Europe, right? Yeah. And the only way to do that, number one, is ambition and get away from this risk-averse mentality, and also number two, reach out to the fans and actually, with the supporters groups and encourage that type of behavior. From that standpoint, where we can actually create that.
There was a group that was involved in the singing section in the South Stand for the Aston Villa game, but even they were left sort of walking away despondent and that because not a lot of people wanted to get involved and stuff like that. But maybe it's one of them. You just got to keep going, keep going, and eventually, the more people become aware of it, and you get more and more people sort of join in that regard. But I do want to move on, from talking around the home form. Has anyone else got anything they want to add quickly to that? In around the home atmosphere. And
just then quickly, like going from like White Hart Lane being 36,000 intimidating, and you're getting in there. Then you sort of double that in size. That allows a lot of different people to come in. And then all the people that were together that sat there for years are dispersed a few bits apart. And it all sort of was to dilute rather than to generate. Well, let's get another 30,000 in. We're going to make it stronger. It had a negative effect and sort of diluted it out and spread fans apart a little bit more. And do you know what I mean? It's to say one little pocket gets going, some are joining. But I've been in the South Stand. When you can hear it down the front there, or you can hear it over there, it doesn't generate the full wall and everyone right at it. And it's it's all these little things that add to it. But we thought just by having another 30,000 Spurs fans, it would make it better. It hasn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, that's spot on, that Martin. I think when you were at White Hart Lane, you had that South Stand. Banter and shelf side and all this lot. It just doesn't seem to be there. It's like they had all the noise, and they've said, right, instead of having all the noise in one place, we're going to chuck you all over the place, and we'll have a little bit of noise from everywhere, but it's not going to be a generic sound.
No,
and that's the problem. And it's like. When the sort of stadium first opened, or after the closed doors and that, and people were saying, they pipe a lot of the noise in, I thought it was a bit of a joke. But you actually do hear it coming from the speakers, and you think,
I was going to ask you.
So wrong.
I was going to ask you, Soren, do Spurs pipe in crowd noise?
They did at the beginning. When they first opened, they were playing the songs and diluting out.
The problem you have, though, is, and I think Soren touched on it, is, when I was at White Hart Lane, you did have the stands sort of singing to each other and bantering. But also, when I went in there with my old lad, everyone around us knew each other. Absolutely everybody around us. How's your week? How's your wife? How's your missus? How's your work going? This, that, and the other. But when you're moving that into a bigger stadium, more access to tickets, like White Hart Lane, it was impossible for someone like me, to travel over from Ireland and get a ticket and stuff. Whereas with the new stadium, it's so easy. So when you are bringing in other fans, and it is open more to, what you would call fans flying in from other countries and stuff. It's about how you get them involved into them sections now. But the club have notoriously not wanted to work with fan groups for quite some time. So now that they are more receptive to it, hopefully we start seeing it change. But
I'll tell you a little thing that would help though, Dave, and we saw it, I think it was the cup final. Put a scarf on a seat. Put a flag on a seat. Put a white piece of paper on the seat.
Yeah.
And if you walk in and all of a sudden there's a flag there for you to wave. I mean, you see it at cup finals. All the white Tottenham flag. Obviously not for a long time, but you see these things, and you see it with other teams where they've put flags or they've put scarves, and doing that. And the old days with the rattles and things like that. Then it
Cool,
just,
you're going back.
well, I know I am, but you know, those little things just make a little bit of difference. You know, if you're in a stadium and say that whole south stand is waving a flag or a scarf, it puts a little bit more onto the rest of the stadium. You know,
100%.
It creates.
Yeah, I went to the women's FA Cup final against Man United last year, I think it was, at Wembley, and they give us all flags, and just stand there for the game. And I know it's silly, just waving a little flag, adults waving a flag, but it generates something. It generates a visual. It generates a collectiveness, and you also you become part of something together, because you can see a flag halfway over there, you can see the flags, and it's a bringing together, isn't it? It's just a symbol.
100%. But look, you know, good discussion around the home stadium and some good ideas. Hopefully, you know, someone inside the club is listening and maybe takes one or two of them ideas to really sort of help improve it. But at the same time, you know, as much as people get on the fans back about needing to improve atmosphere, the mentality inside the club also needs to change in terms of how they approach home games and stuff like that. But I want to take a couple more comments here, and then I'm going to throw a few questions at Jack. Let's wake him up. Let's liven him up. Let's get him involved. We've got this from Holly Hotspurs. Pay for a membership, pay 70 to 120 for a ticket, 50 add-on quid on the train, food and then drink. We don't have to drink, Holly, but you know, I know it's the culture. Everyone loves drinking. Yeah, that's true, especially with how bad we are now. And I don't have to, but I need to, watching us at the moment, looking like 300 quid for a day out. And I mean, it's absolutely insanity. It's just getting where people can't afford.
For an hour and a half, Dave. It's an hour and a half. It's 90 minutes, 300 quid, 400, 500.
It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, I don't know where Holly's from, but you know, 300 quid is almost a cheap day out.
Yeah,
I'd love for it. Yeah, if that's all it cost me, I'd get down more often. But like I say, I mean, by the time I'd finished, it probably cost me nearly 700 quid.
Yeah, well, look, if you're on minimum wage, I mean, that's like 2 weeks' wages nearly, you know, it's absolutely insanity. J-Mac says, made the decision to stop going in the 90s once I saw it was about the money and not about the football and the fans. That was it for me. We've got Nick in the house. Big up, Nick. Good to see you. Lazy 8 says, strategic planning and support engagement before the new ground was open would have strengthened the atmosphere. It can still be done, but it would take cooperation with key groups and sacrifice. Yeah. Absolutely spot on, Nick. Something they haven't been willing to do, but they are sort of more open to that this time around under the Lewis family. So let's see how it goes. We've got this from CEM. Now having the trumpet play is a joke, like playing the last post, another gimmick. It's not the most intimidating, as someone else says here. Yeah. The trumpet sound needs to change. It's the least intimidating sound ever. We've got PH family in the house. Big up, lads, on the way to the stadium. Let's hope for a win and a better performance there. PH family, hopefully you enjoy your day out. Hopefully we can get the win for you today. Big up, my man. We've also got Paul Brown in the house. Big up, Paul Brown. Good afternoon, gents. Here's hoping, and you know, really appreciate you grabbing a membership. And I think he said he also gifted out a few as well. So very, very kind of you, Paul Brown, on that. And he's been around since the very, very beginning. So big up, Paul. Really appreciate all the support, my man. And good to have you in with us today. We've also got, I think I got that from William Webb. But guys, got to keep reiterating, keep smashing that like button, guys. It really does help out, you know, this channel an awful lot. And if you want to grab membership like Paul Brown or gift memberships, or even if you want to have your say, don't be afraid to put it in a super chat. It means it comes up in all these special colors like fireworks, which means your boy cannot miss it. And we will all have a good discussion around it. And it's another way for you to be able to steer the conversation as well. And Faz Bradfast is big on my favorite channel. Good to see you. And then Victoria Harris, my long-lost cousin or brother or sister somewhere. You know, my dad's been a bad boy. Welcome to the channel and grabbing your membership. Really do appreciate the support, Victoria. You never told me where you're from, though. You may let me know, and then I need to get onto my dad and see where he was around those years. But look, let's get Jack
in the next street, Dave. She's in the next street.
Let's get Jack involved. Jack, on my man. I mean, West Ham are likely to sit deep today, stay compact, and look to counter. That's the Nuno way. There's a feeling that if Spurs score early, that West Ham heads could drop and almost immediately and sort of resign themselves to defeat. Do fans expect Tottenham to come out fast and aggressive with intensity to dominate West Ham today to exploit their fragile mentality? Or do you fear another sort of slow, tentative start that allows West Ham to settle and grow into the game like we've seen with a lot of our home performances this season?
I mean, you damn hope so, that we come out quickly and look to dominate the game, because I think any Nuno team has always looked to sit back pretty much and just play you on the counter. So there's pretty much all the invitation for us just to come out the gates really and just try to dominate proceedings and pretty much play that way for the entirety of the 90 minutes. If we aren't doing that, and it's one of those cagey, just pragmatic, type of displays where no real team wants to in any way take any risks, I do really worry for that atmosphere that you guys were talking about earlier. And then I also just really worry for us being able to grab the result. I think any time that you've watched Nuno's teams, they pretty much just hate to have the ball. So we have to look to come out and try to dominate the game from the get-go, really. And it's just whether we're going to actually be good enough, even if we did have the ball. I think that's the right way to go about it. It is the right way to try to take control of possession and try to dominate the game. But the one common thing under Thomas Frank is even when that's been the case, it's not like we really seem to carve out that many chances, or it's not like we really seem to really put the pressure that much on teams. It's very boring, slow, sideways, backwards type of possession. So I think we hope to hopefully see something different against West Ham today. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but I don't think there's any excuse, Dave. From the get-go, we have to play that way.
100%. Look, that's what every fan wants to see. That's the Tottenham way, to dare is to do, Bill, Nick, Birkinshaw, Pochettino, that's the Tottenham way. But is it actually realistic to expect that today? Because I'd ask the question, are Tottenham genuinely coached to dominate matches, or are we just in truth a counter-attacking side, regardless of the opposition? And that's what I'm saying.
I think we at times have seen games where for the most part we're dominating possession, like we are dominating the game. It's just there doesn't seem to be any real patterns of play that have been worked on, or any real moments where we're trying to actually break teams down through the middle, or we're trying to actually carve out chances in different types of ways, or we're really looking to sort of put our foot on the throat of the opposition. So I think I just like to point out what you said about Nuno. It's like, I don't think there's any excuse at all not to play that way. He's probably the easiest manager to try to dominate possession against. So if we didn't have more than, let's say, 60% possession against this Nuno team, that would be honestly deeply frustrating, because it feels like he's one of the teams that you would say most teams seem to have around 60 to 70% possession against. So if we don't end up having that against them at home in a London derby, that would be pretty shameful, to be honest. But yeah, under Thomas Frank, the biggest criticism would be is that we don't seem to have any actual clue what we're doing with the ball in possession and what we're actually trying to create. It just seems to be very random. It doesn't really come at all in waves. It just kind of comes in moments, various sort of just random chances that come here and there. There are very few games where it just feels like we're just carving out chance after chance after chance from real good patterns of play. And that's obviously down to the manager. So yeah, Dave, you're probably right. Like, what I'm saying would sound nice in theory, but under Thomas Frank, we haven't seen it actually at all really that often.
But that's one of my big bugbears, especially at home. It's almost like it's a sparring game for the first 45 minutes to see what the opposition is going to do. And then we go for them in the second half. I mean, it's so infuriating. Just adopt that from the start of the game, and you might, you all of a sudden, you might be able to find yourself 1 or 2-0 up very, very quickly. And then all of a sudden, it's an easy game to manage from there. It's really, really infuriating. But last sort of, question for you on this regard, Jack. I mean, at what point does a cautious approach, stop being game management and start being just a lack of conviction or belief in your players or what you're doing?
I think there's just, if we see any sort of cautious approach from Thomas Frank, again, I'm already very, very Frank out, but if we see any sort of cautious approach in this game, I think that would be even more evidence for people to be Frank out in this game. Like I said, I think against Nuno, there's just no reason to play that way. He's the most cautious, most pragmatic, most defensive manager you can basically find in the Premier League. So to try to in any way match that would just be silly, especially at home when you're already under pressure, when you are desperate for points, when it is a London derby at home as well. That would just be ridiculous. I think you're already, creating an enemy out of yourself with the fan base. So if I see any of what you're suggesting that from Thomas Frank, Dave, which we've seen so many times already this season, but if we were to see any evidence of that this game, where it seems like he's set up pragmatically, he seems to have set up defensively against, like I said, probably the most defensive manager in the Premier League, I just hope that there's even more people that start to smell the coffee and start to realize that this guy's just not it, that this guy's just not the right manager for Spurs. He might be the right manager for a different club that would be okay with doing that, even at home, even in a big derby. But for Spurs fans, like you've already said, this contributes. I know you guys were, I don't want to rehash this argument, but what you guys were talking about with the atmosphere, I hate to say it, but Thomas Frank has single-handedly almost killed the atmosphere this season with some of the football that we've been playing. And if he were to do that against a Nuno team, if he were to play defensive, if he were to play cautious, if he were to play pragmatic, seriously, like, I think there will be a dead atmosphere from that. So there's no excuse, Dave.
100%. I think it'll just kill the atmosphere from the off, or any sort of goodwill or any sort of enthusiasm to the game if we come out and play counter-attacking football against West Ham. Because at home, you're supposed to use the crowd to your advantage, the atmosphere, and you're supposed to go at them from minute one and put them under pressure and see if they buckle. But what we do is we play pragmatic. We allow them to settle in. The crowd goes quiet, and all of a sudden they're sitting there going, "Fuck me, what an easy day!" It's like, a stroll through the park. This and that can't happen, and that's got to start with intensity from minute one. And I don't. When they get possession, I also don't want to see us sit off them and show them respect, because that's when they will start gaining confidence and break us down. West Ham are fragile. Go man for man on them and fucking put them under pressure and watch the mistakes happen and watch us score goals off the back of them. If he fails to do that today, I'm even more steadfast in my opinion that this guy has to go. Holly Hotspur says, I'm losing patience with Thomas the Frank engine. Look, I think Thomas the Frank engine needs a mechanic right now, Holly, to be brutally honest with you. It's gone absolutely sour. But guys, let's move on. I mean, let's get into Thomas Frank. I don't want to spend a load of time on this because I think I sort of understand where everybody is. But I suppose the big question around the game today is the big top, the media have described it as El Sacago. Whoever loses is going to get sacked. Now, Thomas Frank, he has won just 3 of his last 14 games, which does make tonight a must-win, in my opinion, because Sky Sports said during the week it's not quite toxic enough. Well, I can guarantee Sky Sports today, if we lose to West Ham, it's going to be that toxic level that you've asked for, and then I don't want to see you cry about fans and everything else once that does happen, if it's not already toxic enough for you guys. But in general, guys, I mean, look, there's a lot of, a narrative around Frank, and I think it is mostly driven by the fans, that if he loses today, everybody sort of wants him gone. But the club are maybe doing a little bit different through their actions. They have signed Conor Gallagher. They've signed Sousa. His medical was completed last night. They're just waiting for paperwork to be finalised on that. And they did bring in Johnny Heitinga, coming in behind the scenes sort of to help Frank out, and I think Jack made a fair point during the week that why would they let him bring in, another coach to replace Matty Wells if they do plan on sacking him, regardless of the result against West Ham. So, despite all the pressure, does the board support maybe show that they are willing to back Frank and that he is going to be here until the end of the season, guys? And we'll go to Martin on this one first.
Yeah, well, I think obviously it seems that with the things coming out that the board have given their backing. You can't use a couple of players as backing him because we need them regardless of whatever the manager situation is. So I can't say they're giving him that, but I think that they're trying to back him because they wouldn't unless the sceptical part of us thinks, well, if they bring Heitinga in now and they do sack him, they've got someone to take it on now to the end of the season. But I don't like to think the club would be thinking that way. But if they are backing him with the coaching staff, and by all accounts, he's highly thought of, and he was only Slot's number 2 last year, and then he's left, and look what happened to Liverpool. So is he the missing link for the Liverpool downfall at the minute? And was he a big part of what happened for them last year? And if he can bring any of that into our team, it's only a bonus. But, for Frank has had half the season now, and he's seen his pragmatic negative approach to the game hasn't worked for him. It's not. We're down in 14th. The crowd are against him. All this, that, and the other. So is he at the point now where he thinks, right, well, let's flip it on its head and let's go for it a bit. And today is the ideal time against a team that's been down the bottom all season. And even you look at Wolves, they've got a bit of fight in them. Leeds have got a bit of fight. Forest have got a bit of fight. I don't think West Ham have. And I've watched a few of their podcasts and that, and they're all sitting there saying their players ain't got it in them. They don't.
Everyone's resigned to it there.
They can't. They're already, and the board are talking about they're preparing for next year. They're already relegated in their head because they know the players ain't got it. They ain't putting the investment in. They're not doing that. And if Frank goes out and shows them respect today and gives them any glimmer of hope of getting a confidence boost and a win against us, and then that might turn them round, then he deserves everything he gets, because this is not the game to do anything like that. This is the game to go out, show what we can do, what we want to do, and what it's going to look like going forward from his point of view. And that is front foot football, energy. Don't sit back, don't pay them respect, and take it to them. And if we take it to them and they turn up and they're better than us, we can all not get behind it and be happy about it, but if we can see something. At the minute, we're not seeing anything, and that is his problem. So if he comes out today with the winning intent and has a go, and then he pulls it off, the pressure's off him a little bit. It buys him another week. He's got to help himself. You know, in a minute, he's just making his job and it harder for himself. So he is a big part of where this club can go forward or backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that does start with, his intent from the first whistle today, for sure. Because one thing that I noticed,
isn't it? It's as simple as that.
Because, one thing he's very good at is coming out in the press before the game. We want to be on the front foot. We want to be aggressive. Rah, 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 rah. But he's not following through with that same message in terms of the tactics and the instructions he's given these players on the football pitch. And that's where I get myself very, very frustrated with the guy. Stevie, down to you, my man. I mean, do you think the club's actions this week are showing that regardless of the result today and regardless of the way the media are building up as El Sacco, that Thomas Frank is here until the end of the season?
Yeah, what's interesting is I look at this is the exact same way that the board supported Postecoglou last season. It was, to the media, it's like he's going to be our guy through the rest of the season. And the only reason why they didn't sack him, back in February, it was because there wasn't another guy that they felt comfortable taking the interim for the rest of the season. And it almost feels like it's the exact same situation here. They're going to support him because who else is going to be able to come in, and turn it around, or essentially hand the keys to somebody they actually can trust. And from that situation, they're going to try to do whatever they can to make sure that there is something in place that is going to support them. But that being said, man, the results are the results. And if something should happen today, where as you said, Dave, it was like if we find a reason to drop points to West Ham. All that's going to do is erode the trust from the board with Thomas Frank. And that's I hate to be the one to say it, right? Like, results are everything when it comes to a first year manager. And especially when you're coming across from a team where you don't have the CV, where you don't necessarily have that built-in trust, and you don't have any of that cachet with the fans, and you actually have to build it. And these are the results that you absolutely get. You kind of erode confidence. And from that standpoint, we have already mentioned it. We're not selling out the stadium, and that has a direct effect to the Spurs' bottom line. And make no mistake, their bottom line, they won't be fucked with in that manner, right? So if the results continue down that road, they're going to be put in a situation where it's going to be the exact same as Ange Postecoglou. It's like, yeah, you're our guy, but make no mistake, come the end of the season, you're not going to be our guy.
Well, see, Soren, I wonder what your opinion is. Like, do you think they're right to stick by Thomas Frank? And maybe, because I know maybe before you went to the Aston Villa game, you were maybe of that opinion. I wonder, has that changed since maybe you've been to the game and seen the football and what was on offer and everything else? But because it does seem like that the club have looked at what Chelsea, Man United and Real Madrid have done. They've all sort of promoted within, or people within their structures and stuff, and that they haven't been able to bring in this big caliber or this big name manager. And it does seem like every club is waiting until the big merry-go-round in the summer after the World Cup, managers out of contracts and stuff like that. And I think the club are looking at a point and go, well, bring in an interim or give them the rest of the season to try and see an upturn in results and then judge it at the end of the season. You think that's the correct decision? Because they wouldn't back the guy with like signings they need to bring in anyway, but they wouldn't back the guy with another coach, bringing him into his backroom staff if they have plans to sack him after today, regardless of results. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Look, you're kind of almost asking the wrong person, because I'll back the manager right until the point that he's not the manager anymore, whether I agree with him or not. I wasn't necessarily impressed with Thomas Frank coming in the first place. Do I think he should be sacked now? No. Do I think we should give him every single chance to succeed? Yes. But the argument I would say is, you know, where people and fans are saying, well, we've backed him, we've got Gallagher in. Well, no, we haven't spent a penny really, because we've only really spent the money that we sold Brennan Johnson for. So there's nothing has changed yet this window that we've seen in other windows where, you know, the club are telling us that they're going to put money in and they're going to, you know, sign players. Well, where are they? We're halfway through January nearly already, and we've basically signed one player, but we've sold one. So it's 1 in, 1 out. It's the same old story. And if this is backing Thomas Frank and giving him every chance, then it's just going to end up the same way as every other manager has been. And look, getting Conor Gallagher in isn't backing Thomas Frank. It's backing whichever manager is in charge, because he'll play under any manager. And this is what we've seen with the club before. It's not necessarily getting the right players for the right manager. It's getting players that can play in multiple systems, no matter who's in charge. So back to the question, should we give Frank a bit longer? Yes, I think we should. I think he's not the bad manager that it seems at the moment. I think he's still getting to grips. It's like anything. You go to what is supposedly a big club from, you know, a club that he's come from. It's a big step up, and everything is done differently. And everything is done differently at Tottenham compared to every other club in the world. So, you know, it's going to take him time. And look, I banged on right to the very end of Ange saying we need to sit and back a manager. We need to back a manager. We need to back a manager. And we won a European Cup. I mean, I'm not saying if we back Thomas Frank, we're going to win a European Cup, but I don't see what we'll gain by getting rid of Thomas Frank now and bringing in an interim manager. Fair enough. If something like, you know, this bubble that everybody thinks Xabi Alonso is going to come. If Xabi Alonso turned around tomorrow and said, right, you know, I'll come, then the board need to make a decision. That's a little bit different. But to bring in, say, a Ryan Mason or, you know, a Tim Sherwood or something like that, I just don't see the point. You might as well stick with Thomas Frank, get some players in that he can actually use, and give him to the end of the season. And look, as long as we're not going to get relegated, then what is the harm?
I mean, it can't get much worse though, Soren. Like, it can't,
exactly. It can't get much worse, can it?
And also, like, it's so typical of Tottenham to like come out and like give backing and all these like words of like trust and faith to arguably the worst manager since Christian Gross. Like, this is what's so typical of Spurs.
Hang on a minute, Jack.
All the previous managers, they never would come out and say things like that of like, oh, you know, we're backing him till the end. We're giving him the support he needs. We're going to give him transfers, this, that, and the other. It's like, this is so typical of Spurs to come out and give all the support and faith and trust to arguably one of the worst managers we've seen in like 2 decades.
You can't say that, Jack. There was never going to be a worse manager than Ange, remember. We got told by the football professionals in the chats that Ange was never going to be beaten as the worst manager in football history.
No, yeah,
the football was so shit, and the grass
I have
was
no faith in
always
even Thomas
greener.
Frank. I have no faith in even Thomas Frank lifting the odd trophy like Ange did, because Thomas Frank doesn't even know what cup to be able to pick up, you know, from the
snap.
So it's just this guy, man, like, he's just. Those rumors, like the fact that it's come out from 2 different journalists that the club is going to come out and back this guy and give him faith. I don't know. It's really turned me the other way about them, because it's just like, it's so typical.
It's just to the end of the season, Jack.
A guy he's about to have the worst single-handed winning percentage of any manager ever at the club. It's so typical.
He could turn it round. I mean, look, what makes me laugh is, you know, we looked. I mean, a few of us on here, you know, we backed Ange right to the hill, and yes, you know, we probably backed him in some cases where we shouldn't have done and things like that. But he was the manager. And, you know, you had all the shit. Well, you look at how things are going. I mean, Thomas Frank over the last few weeks and months and this season has had a lot of injuries, which we all got told was down to Ange Postecoglou and his training methods. Well, it's funny how it's still happening now. So, and to different players, let's not forget that. You kind of wonder if he had a full squad of our players that we've got now, that were all actually fit, whether anything would be different. And I think it would be. I think he keeps getting injuries to key players in key positions. And you just look at it and you think, it's something's got to change. Now, you look at every game we've played and lost. We haven't had a real spanking yet, have we? You know, they've always been quite tight. And I don't know whether Thomas Frank is the long-term answer, whether he isn't. But again, right now, other than Xabi Alonso, obviously, who is the answer?
Yeah. No, I get that. Like, you know, do we have that club man around the way Man United do with the options they had available, the way Madrid do, you know, the way they brought through Arbeloa and stuff like that? Do we have that guy around? You'd probably argue we don't. But also, when you look at the context of the January transfer window, if you're trying to find a manager as well as players, that makes your January transfer window even harder to do. And also, when you look at Vinaya, he was the one that stood behind Mikel Arteta and got him to this point, you know, at the back, and even though the fans wanted him out. And I don't think he's a guy that just turns on managers like that. So all in all, he's going to be here until the end of this transfer window, at least, and probably up until the end of the season. However, I think if he doesn't start winning games and they try and stick by that, you know, you will start seeing that stadium half empty, you know, come towards the end of the campaign and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a tricky one. It'd be interesting to see what they plan on doing with that. But look, everyone knows where I'm at with Thomas Frank. I just don't believe he's the guy. I don't think he motivates the, people in and around them. I don't think he motivates the players, and I think you see that on the football pitch. And everyone's sitting there hinging on, what if we get our players back from injury? Okay, James Maddison. But Thomas Frank doesn't play the ball through the middle. He goes out wide and instructs them to cross it. So what effect is James Maddison going to have on this team when Thomas Frank doesn't play through the middle? You know, and stuff like that. And that's where my concerns come in. Everyone's hinging their hopes on this guy.
Yeah, but you say that, Dave, and everybody's wanting Xavi down the middle to play that Maddison role. So, you know...
but this is my point, though. Like, you know, Maddison picked up an injury. The club went in and brought Xavi Simons. It's not like they went in and bought a guy like Sousa from Brazil, first senior season. You know, no one knows anything about him. They bought in a guy that everybody knows. And this guy's played at top clubs all around Europe, some of the best clubs in each country he's been at. And he can barely get, barely get him going. And that's because he doesn't play to Xavi Simons' strengths. What Frank wants to do, if you go back and look at Brentford, you know, everyone moans about the progressive passes out the midfield. You know, I mean, Carragher highlighted it against, João Paulinho. People have highlighted it against Bentancur. But no one's actually looked into the tactics and the way we play. The reason why these guys aren't playing progressive passes is because their only job is to keep that ball moving from left to right and go down the wings. That's the way Thomas Frank plays. So he doesn't want to play with that sort of calm guy. And until he starts adjusting the way he wants to play, because that's all right at Brentford when you're playing counter-attacking. But at Tottenham, you are expected to play on the front foot. And that's where he's struggling. He doesn't know how to implement on the front foot system and get the likes of your Xavis involved, get more out of Kudos or get him into more goal-scoring opportunities, actually start creating chances for fucking Kolo Muani to try and go and score goals. This guy's scored goals everywhere he's been, bar Tottenham Hotspur. And I've been saying this from very early on in the season. This isn't a quality issue. The players we've brought in, Conor Gallagher, João Paulinho, Muani, Simons, Kudos, these are all players that a Jose would have killed for, a Conte would have killed for, even Pochettino, Postecoglou would have killed for these guys. And you would argue if they were given these guys, might even still be in a job today if they were given the right caliber signings. This guy's been given good caliber signings. We haven't brought in a 40 million Archie Gray from the Championship or 10 million Bergvall from Sweden, and stuff like this. This guy's been given proper players, and he doesn't know how to use them. Everyone's expecting Conor Gallagher, for instance, to walk in. He's going to solve our creativity issue. He's going to score goals from midfield. Not if he's playing in that double pivot, he's not, because he's sitting too far deep. He's sitting too far deep. At the end of the day, is Thomas Frank going to give Conor Gallagher the freedom he had under Pochettino at Chelsea, or he had at Crystal Palace to get forward, or that? Is Thomas Frank going to give him that freedom to go and affect the games like that?
You see that last week, Dave, with the Villa game. Now, they went straight through the middle of us, 1 and 2 touch passing. None of them had 3 touches. Everything was 1 and 2 touch. And if you see, that's coached. That's not players' instinct. That's coached. They're told where to be. They're dropping off. And our players were just standing there going, oh, he's got the ball. Oh, he's got the ball. They're not ready for 1-2 touch passing. And they just cut straight through us. It was like some beauty. Our players were just stood still. And it was beautiful to watch if it was our team. But, you just see, what I was trying to get at is that middle. I said on here last week before the game, we're going to win or lose this game on the midfield. And that first goal went in, and I sat there and went, you could just see it. And the difference in our coaching, forget the rest of the team, just that midfield battle, them 3 going through to the forwards, the link up between them with a 1-2 touch passing and the pass and move. It's not just pass, it's pass and move. And they all hit their things and the goal goes in bang. And like the players were just stood there going, what the hell's gone on here? And that comes down to coaching.
Well, look, we've got a couple of chats here, and then I want to, go through maybe some team questions because the lineup will be out very, very shortly. Dermot with the super sticker. Dermot, big game today, my man. Hopefully you're up for it. Hopefully we can get the win today as well. Let's bloody go. Big up, Dermot. Good to see you in the building, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got Wayne Bonner, or no, not Wayne Bonner, Faz Radfar, Faz 4-0 Spurs. We need more drums and big flags in the stadium. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely. And more tifos and stuff like that, just help try and create and generate that atmosphere. And big up, Faz. Hopefully we get 4 today. And Wayne Bonner has gifted out channel membership. Very, very kind of you, sir. And that has gone to Scott Spur. So Scott Spur, if you are in the house, make sure you thank Wayno for his generosity on that. Very, very kind of you, Wayno. We'll go with Conor Gallagher, and I might resort back to like Romero on fullbacks and stuff like that. But look, the midfield battle is going to be absolutely crucial today, guys. I mean, Rodrigo Bentancur is now sidelined practically for the rest of the season with a hamstring injury. It is a massive blow for Spurs. Who should line up along in that double pivot now that he's injured up? Look, I would love to say Paulinho should be a must, but up until recently, he spent a run of like 6-7 games on the bench, which I found astounding. But also, should Thomas Frank stick with Archie Gray, who's been slowly integrated over the last while, and Paulinho's even been dropped for him, or throw a new signing Gallagher straight into there? And if he does, what are we expecting from Conor Gallagher, I suppose, is the question. We'll start with you on this one, Steve. You haven't started with you on one
yet. That's a great question. So now I heard there might have been a knock to Paulinho in training this week, and so that's also going to determine what's going to be at play. I guess the question is does Thomas Frank feel that Conor Gallagher is ready to come right into the come into the 11? And if that's the case, is he going to allow Conor Gallagher to play like Conor Gallagher? Dave, you just mentioned something very poignant right there. It's like if he's in that double pivot, essentially what you're going to see is two withdrawn midfielders that actually do absolutely nothing in the middle of the park. So what's the point, right? But that Conor Gallagher is probably the guy, that may or may not be a difference maker, just considering his style of play. I would probably think that if it is
quickly, sorry, Yves Bissouma's back in the match day squad today. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would, if João Palhinha is available, I would probably stick with João Palhinha and potentially Conor Gallagher. The one thing I don't want to see is Conor Gallagher lined in the 10 with Xavi out left. Me personally, I don't necessarily think that gives us the best opportunity to utilize a guy like Gallagher. But that being said, it is what it is. That's the thing. It's like I don't necessarily have really all that much optimism when it comes to this midfield, just considering the way that we line up and we try to build out of the back. It almost kind of negates it. So I guess to answer your question, I would probably roll with Archie Gray and Conor Gallagher.
Interesting. What? See, I think we have to play João Palhinha. I think
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
But
I heard he got a knock in training. I don't know if he's going to be available today.
Yeah, well, that's why Bissouma's included in the match day squad. But we'll get on to that when the squad comes out, because to be honest with you, I think Frank is killing himself off bringing in Balloon Boy back into the squad. You try and make a statement of zero dickhead policy. You stand by that at all costs. If it means you have to bring in a Callum Olosesi or someone like that, you bloody do that. I think he's absolutely killing himself there. You know, maybe it might work. Maybe everyone will go on the balloons with Basuma for the game. We might actually see the players be favour of that today. Let's wait and see. Martin, you excited to see Conor Gallagher in action? And by the way, how much credit did he actually deserve picking Tottenham over Aston Villa, by the way? Because when you put it into context, Tottenham, you would argue, maybe struggling in the Champions League, 14th position in the league, out of both domestic cups. Whereas Aston Villa, you know, looks like they'll probably get Champions League football next season. And also they're up there right now, sort of pushing for a title race. So how much credit does he actually deserve for making that move to Tottenham Hotspur?
If you look at it from an outsider's point of view, you probably think it's a stupid move. From our point of view, I think it's a great choice. I've always admired Conor Gallagher. Apart from his good looks, I think he's a good player as well. I just like I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, he runs around. But it's the energy and the pressure he puts on the other team. He doesn't give you a minute to breathe. And then hopefully that inspires the others to come up to his level rather than him take his foot off the gas and drop back to our level. So I'm hoping he raises the bar instead of, you know, just comes in and sits in. But I think he's a better ball player than people give him credit for. He scored some great goals. He gets in some good positions up top. I think he might be the replacement for Paulinho. I think that's where the long-term vision I think they're looking at. But I think for today's game, if Paulinho is fit, we don't need a double pivot to contain West Ham, right? We just don't. They've got this tatty geezer up front. He might be all right. He runs around and does a bit. But I'm sure with the experience he's got against Romero and Van der Ven, they should be fine. So you put Paulinho in front of them. Between them three, they should be able to keep that one man quiet, right? Then their midfield, you look at them, they're all young. They're not very experienced. You've got Fernandez from Southampton who got relegated last year. You've got Freddie Potts, who's a good player, come through the academy, but he's not the article yet. We don't need a double pivot to keep out West Ham. So I want to see Paulinho doing the mopping up. I want to see Gallagher running the midfield, running it. I want Xavi to be pushed just a little bit further up and then given a license to spray the balls to the forwards and let's see what happens. But I think if you're restricting Gallagher to do what Paulinho does and Paulinho next to him, you're wasting one player. So we're playing with 10 men because there's two doing the same thing. Yep. And it ain't Arsenal, it ain't Liverpool, where they've got great attacking players that we have to be worried. So if he does the double pivot and they're playing 2 sixes and then leaving the whole midfield up to Xavi, I think he's just crazy. I think he has to go front foot, Gallagher more in the 8 and doing what he asked Archie Gray and Bergvall to do, run around. But he will run around with purpose and he's got the guts to steal. And he's played, 250 games. You know, he's not an experienced kid. He was good enough. Potts loved him and put him straight as captain Chelsea. Chelsea fans didn't want him to go. The only reason they sold him is because they're crazy way they do it. They're going to get straight 50 million put on their books so they can go and buy another 10 kids. It was nothing to do with footballing reasons. It was just he was a great asset to sell and they've got a million other midfielders. They go, well, we can lose him. It doesn't matter. But I loved his little PR. I'm glad to come to Spurs and all that and dressing his dog up in a Spurs shirt. Listen, it's PR, but do you know what? I bloody loved it. And, you know, we've been so starved of anything. Like Kuda's coming in. Yeah, you can feel Tottenham in there and all that. But Connor's come in and he's really give it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I wanted to be here. I no other club for me and all that. Listen, it's just words. But whatever club he goes to, you know he's going to give you 110% every game. And I don't think he gets the credit that, you know, people go, oh, he's just a run around or he just does this. No, I think there is a lot more to his game that people have overlooked, or I'm seeing something because I like him in what he does. So I'm really excited to see him, as long as he ain't doing the 6 and he's more that box to box, linking up the defence to the attack and being a boss in the midfield, because that's what he is.
100%. And I was actually surprised to see maybe the controversy around the sign. Not the controversy, but maybe some of the opinions around the sign. And for me, it's not like a project like we've gone and signed in years gone, but it's a ready-made player to come straight in. For me, I actually think it's a good sign. And if we can add another top-quality midfielder in terms of a ball progressive midfielder, someone that's maybe a deep-lying playmaker that has that long-range passing in him and stuff, then all of a sudden you've got 4 very good options there, for that double pivot with Bentancur, Paulinho, Conor Gallagher, and whoever else you're bringing in that mold. And then that way, then you do have all the tools you need for games, and then to be able to change games off the bench and stuff like that. Soren, down to you, my man, and we'll get your opinion on Conor Gallagher, and then I want to get Jack's opinion on who should start up front tonight. But Frank said Gallagher can walk straight into the team and improve Spurs immediately. Is that fair, or are expectations already being piled on too quickly, like we did with Simmons, Mawani, Kudos, players like that?
No, I think we've heard, Gallagher's Prem proven, so we know what we're going to get. Look, he is a class player. We saw him at Chelsea and we hated him. When it feels a little bit different when we were chasing him when he was at Chelsea. He just felt a different player that we were trying to sign. He was a Chelsea boy and coming straight from Chelsea to Tottenham. He didn't want to do it. We didn't want him for that reason. It's a little bit different now. He's been to Spain. He's played well.
El Pitbull, they called him out there.
Pardon?
El Pitbull is what they called him out there.
Yeah, English Pitbull. And that's the kind of player that we want. We want somebody with a little bit of nastiness, a little bit of grit, a little bit of I'm not putting up with this. And for me, this is where you look and you think it's the perfect time now to get that little triangle: Paulinho, Gallagher, and Xavi. Xavi to the left, Gallagher, running about
to the right.
Let Xavi actually have that proper creative place now, and just tell Paulinho, just do what you do. What you do, just be that interceptors, break everything up. Gallagher, run backwards and forwards like you do. And that's where I think we're losing too many games. We are so soft in the middle, soft. And you kind of feel with getting a Gallagher in that it's probably just hardened that centre up a little bit. You've got a little bit of grit. Sod's law, he'll be injured by 45 minutes. So, never been injured in this season.
We've gone and done it. Well done. We've all tried not saying it.
Well, I'm saying it now because, you just look at it and you think, I think there was a picture, I don't know if it was from his medical or whatever, and he was sat on, like hospital bed type thing, and you just think, shit, they're practicing already. But look, I don't know. I just feel that he is the right signing, and I'm not, what kind of you want to say he's not this spectacular world-beating player, but he's damn good at what he does. That's the difference,
He's your engine.
Yeah, and as long as Thomas Frank actually plays him in a position that suits him, then hopefully it'll be good. And why not bring him in today? Why not? To me, he should start today because, you might as well put him in against a team that we really want to beat. We really want to beat them today. And what better than bringing in a player that is mentally a winning type player? And
I think he's got no option. I think he's got no option.
He's got an option. Look, I like Archie Gray. I think from day one, I thought he was a good potential for us long term. But again, bringing in a Conor Gallagher, bringing in a Paulinho, these are the type of players that help players like, Archie Gray become better players. Bloody hell, that's twice today. I'm going to have to change what I'm saying because I'm not used to many people.
This much love. Usually people are sitting there calling you deluded and stuff like that.
Yeah, calling me a right tosser and things like that,
No, but it's not ever based on your opinion. It's based on your your backing when things are going tough, which I actually think is an admirable quality, to be honest with you. I don't think more people should be like me, where they effing and jeffing and getting frustrated, so fair play to you on that one. But look,
No,
I do want to ask
you're going downhill when Leighton starts to agree with you. That's that's when it's bottom.
You also know you should be
I mean
winning
that
the game
nicely,
when Leighton says we should be winning as well, like he did earlier on. But I do want to ask Jack, just before the lineups do come out, Jack. I mean, the defeat to Aston Villa was compounded by an injury to Spurs' top scorer, Richarlison, who is now expected to be sidelined for 2 months. I mean, who should lead the line in his absence? Cole Mawani, who's been struggling for goals, or Dominic Solanke returning from a 5-month layoff and still finding match sharpness?
I think it's got to be Kolo Muani, to be perfectly honest. I think Solanke, you have to ease him back into things. He's never really had any significant injuries until he's come to Spurs, but since he has come to Spurs, I think Solanke's had about 2 or 3 decent injury spells. I mean, this one has been absurdly long, but I think even under Ange in his first season, he had some fairly long ones for the most part. So it's got to be Kolo Muani, and it looks like it is Kolo Muani by the looks of things. So let's zoom in on it here. We have Vicario, Pedro Porro, Davies is in the team, and then Romero, Van de Ven, and it looks like it's going to be Archie Gray with Gallagher in the team, Xavi Simons, Batistell, Odebear, and then Kolo Muani up top. I mean, for the most part, it's he must be injured. If that's the case, like, you don't really have much of an issue for the most part with the lineup, maybe apart from Davis being picked. I mean, Davis, to be fair to him, has played well. He has played well in recent games, Davis, but that is that's the only thing that you would say is maybe controversial about the team that he's picked today. I think the reason does make the bench, like you mentioned earlier.
I think the reason why he picks Davies is what he said, in the build-up to the Sunderland game, that he wants the left-footed left-back to be able to build up quicker down that side. And I think he's more reliant on that side now that Kudus is out injured on the right-hand side. So I think that's maybe why he's made that decision. No Paulini in the matchday squad, which alludes to what Stevie was saying, that apparently, he's picked up a knock, which means Basuma does come back into the matchday squad, which I find very controversial, by the way, because I think if you're a manager and you use a player to make a statement, regardless of what injury crisis or whatever you find yourself in, you have to double down with that statement to prove your point even further.
It wasn't one thing, Dave. It was a couple of things, and he's not just like, he's had one. We're giving, like, he's had a couple of strikes now, and I totally agree with you on that.
I just think if you're a player in that squad now, you don't take anything he says seriously now moving forward. If he tries to like sort of say, guys, I'm not going to tolerate this, you're like, no, well, you are. You brought Basuma back from the dead, so you are. You know what I mean? I just think he's lost. I think he'll lose the dressing room off the back of this decision, or he'll lose the respect, of the dressing room off the back of the decision. That's just my opinion. People may say it's harsh or whatever, but I've been in dressing rooms, and when a manager goes against what he initially says is zero tolerance, it's open season for everybody else to start.
You think, though, Dave, like, to play devil's advocate, that all the players on the bench there are first-team players. He's got no youth academy or youngsters coming through that he's tried to put out a strong side into West Ham. So he's got stuff coming off the bench. I hope he doesn't use him, but if it's just a psychological thing. But as I say, I'm on your side. I'm not trying to go against you on it.
I get it, but I just think, what's more important, psychological or your message to the dressing room and what's acceptable and what's not. I think it makes him look very weak, to be honest with you.
Just jumping in and slightly disagreeing with you, Dave. Look, I'm not a Biss fan, and I would rather not see him in the lineup at all. But you kind of look at it and think, yes, he said what he said, and he's been out for obviously all of the season, basically so far, most of the season. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know whether he's knuckled down and
there should be no way back once you've made the statement.
There shouldn't be, but sometimes, sometimes a good manager has to look at what's happening and think, right, I will give you a chance. And look, none of us here probably believe he deserves it. But like you say, we don't see what's going on behind closed doors. Now, I don't think he should ever play for Tottenham again. But you've kind of got to trust the manager. If he comes out and puts a statement, no dickheads in my team, and he picks him, he has to have a very good reason for picking him. That's the only defense I can give him.
Here's the thing, though. Frank has had multiple opportunities to draw a line in the sand when it comes to, players and their behavior. there has been multiple times where a Pedro Porro or a Vicario or whoever the case had a string of bad games, and there was no repercussion for that. There was no line drawn in the sand to say, "Hey, listen, the expectations of how I expect you to play are this, that, and the other," and they're rewarded for their bad play. And so it's not surprising, to see Basuma come right back into this into the squad. Right, he's already shown that he's actually kind of weak when it comes to these type of decisions. So from that standpoint, Dave is 100% spot on. If you've drawn a line in the sand, you can't go over it, because essentially what you're saying is like, our coach can be walked on.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think when he's been out for so long, you've sometimes got to give a player hope that he can get back. If you just totally dismiss him, then, to be honest with you, it could be worse behind the scenes than ever. So if you've got to sometimes give these people the light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel could be miles away, but to me, a good manager will know. He will know, right, this guy's never playing for me again. But if something suddenly proves him wrong, then sometimes you just got to back down a little bit. Now,
did you see the video? To the video when he come into training back from the AFCON, all the players were hugging him and were so pleased to see him, and so they obviously don't feel the way we do. They're
exactly. Yeah, and this is it. I mean, to me, you look at people like this, and there's a player in there, but he's just he's just one of those players that just frustrates us all. But look, had he started today, I think there'd have been a good reason for us all to absolutely slate Thomas Frank off. The fact he's on the bench, the fact needs must, and the fact that we don't know what's going on behind scenes, then I think you've just got to trust Thomas Frank to a degree and think, right, he's obviously seen something for the reason, the fact that he's giving him a chance.
I get what you're saying, but for me, I don't trust the guy. He's made so many wrong decisions, since he's been here, in terms of opening his mouth, team selection, the way he goes about games. I don't trust him. I personally see it as a sign of weakness, but I take your point, Soren. If they've had the clear the air discussions and stuff like that, then and maybe Frank wants to give him a second chance. Okay, fair enough. But I just think the message it sends out to the rest of the guys in the dressing room is you're weak, personally.
It's written now for him to come on the 88th minute and score the winning goal. And what you're going to do.
And then we'll sell him to Galatasaray. Let's not forget he was wearing one of them jerseys, and move and stuff. And, we'll probably give him a balloon to celebrate as well and make a good joke of it, a good laugh of it. But, guys, look, let's get your quick thoughts on the lineup and your score prediction, and then we'll get out of here and let everyone, go and get ready for the big game today. Stevie, what's your thoughts on the lineup and what's your score prediction? I'll put your channel here in the chat for you.
I actually think this is the best possible lineup that he could have put out today. As far as the attacking four, I think it kind of picked itself at this point. Now it all depends on exactly how the style of play is going to dictate how good Randall Kolo Muani is going to play. Like, I'm still waiting. There is a player in Kolo Muani, and this is a perfect opportunity for him to kind of get off the mark and get some good vibes going. I'm kind of curious to see how Matisse Tell plays as well too, because his form has actually been really good. But from that standpoint, none of it is going to matter unless Thomas Frank is prepared to let the handbrake off and let these guys just go play inspired football. Because if that's the case, we're gonna have a fantastic afternoon today. But also, quick shout out to Ben Davis. I had a feeling he was going to be in that left back position. And quite honestly, his last two appearances have actually been pretty good. He hustles. He does the things that every fan likes. I'm actually kind of happy that he is going to get another start today. As far as a prediction, yesterday I predicted 2-1 West Ham. I'm going to go back on that and say 1-1 draw.
Interesting. Ben Davies up against Jeroboam be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Owen is usually a guy that loves a goal against Tottenham, so it'll be an interesting battle there. Martin, what's your thoughts on the lineup, my man, and what's your score prediction today? Do you think today's maybe a day where Shabby comes alive today?
Well, it's a great game for him to do it because I've just looked at the West Ham lineup. They've got Fernandez, Souček as their double pivot in midfield. So,
Souček got sent off against us in that first game.
yeah, Souček's just like I don't know. The West Ham fans love him like in a nostalgic way, don't they? But you know, he gets about, and all West Ham fans want is someone to run around and give it their all, and he does that. But he don't do it with grace or with skill. But yeah, I think our midfield should be able to boss their midfield, and I think the Xavi should be able to, you know, have a bit of a field day because West Ham do sit defensively back, and there's big gaps between front and back. The only one that links them up is Somerville, that's got a bit of speed and can get down. Bowen's not the fastest, but he's quite technically good. And like with the Davies, you know, I don't mind Davies, but the thing with Davies for me is he'll have a good couple of games and then everyone stops giving him a bit of shit and then he'll have a stinker. And I hope today ain't that day. You know, I did think he'd go with Udogie, but he obviously can't be. He might give Davies the first half, but Udogie obviously can't be fully fit or match fit. Then you can't get match fit without playing. But yeah, Kolo Muani, I think, should do all right up there. He's got to kick into gear because we can all see he's a player. PSG paid 90 million for him. You don't become a dud overnight.
Yeah.
It's whether his heart's into it, whether he's enjoying the tactics. There's something not right there because you can't just lose that amount of talent, you know, overnight. So I think we should be able to attack him. I think we should go good. And I'm going for another 3-0.
3-0. Well, I mean, if Telenudeberg can get going like they did against Aston Villa and Xavi Simons, you know, can capture his second half performance, then there's every reason. You know, we put 3 by them earlier on in the season. There's no reason why we can't go and do it again, and we are at home. So I'll take that all day long. That'll certainly send me into the rest of the weekend happy, Martin. And Soren, what's your thoughts on the lineup? And let's get your score prediction, buddy.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's probably Tell on the left, Odebear on the right. Unfortunately, Mawani down the middle probably still won't hit a band or if he tries. 3-0 by half time. Gallagher, Tell, and an absolute massive run again from Van der Ven. Second half, they'll score, and Bissouma to come on last minute and score another goal. So I'm going 4-1. Why not?
Fair enough. That's not a bad one. I'll take that. Just give me 1 second. But yeah, no, I'll take that. I mean, it's goals galore. That's what we want to see today. So I'm happy with that. So everyone bar Stevie is predicting Tottenham to win here today. Jack will give you this from Lee Harvey. He says, afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, Lee. Hopefully you are keeping well, my man. He says, how is Davies playing ahead of Spence? Bowen will rinse Davies today. Glad Connor is starting, though. Come on, you Spurs.
I mean, I'm in the same boat as you, Lee. I just feel like Ben Davies against actually quality forwards can often get really exposed. And he's, I think, for a long time now shown that his times at fullback have been done. I mean, yes, he's been good in the last 2 games, but I've seen this many a times from Ben Davies where he'll have a good game or two, but then all of a sudden, you know, the 3rd or 4th game in a row, playing out at fullback will get absolutely rinsed. I still have nightmares of that day against Brentford where I feel like Mbumo had a brace in the first half or something coming up against him and just, you know, sort of just tore him a new one. And I feel like Jared Bowen is easily capable of doing the same thing. That being said, though, like I brought up, he has played well in the last 2 games. He's arguably been better than Jed Spence in the last couple of games. It's not a huge sample size, don't get me wrong, but he has been better. And then, like Dave mentioned earlier, he is actually a left-footed player. He provides that balance by being a left-footed player. And maybe, again, just to be, even though I, of course, have my bias against the guy, I have to be fair at the end of the day. I would say that actually building out from possession, he's actually been good. He's actually been played some really nice passes, whether they've been, you know, over the top or, you know, just recycling possession. He's been pretty tidy on the ball for the most part. So that could also be it, in that when Jed Spence has played, he's always looking to come back inside. He's always looking to sort of take the safe option, whereas Ben Davies has actually allowed us to progress forward at times with some of the passing that he's played. And this is coming from a guy that is in complete agreement with you, Lee Harvey, but I have to, at the end of the day, try to be as fair as possible.
Fair, fair. Big up, Lee. Really appreciate supporting my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. And then Phil Spur says, cheer up, Irish Hotspur. I mean, we're sitting in 14th out of both domestic cups and, you know, stuff like that. I'm not sure what cheery you want me to have. I get it. It's a derby day, and don't get me wrong. You know, I'm fully behind it. I want the boys to go and win today and, you know, go and score goals. But I need them to give me something to get behind. My belief is gone within this current season, and it's up to them to get me back behind it. But one thing I will say is, despite Thomas Frank and every player telling me I'm not loyal, despite not believing in them so far this season, I'm still here for every single game. And then he also says, when did Frank ever say Biss would never play for Spurs again? Stop making stuff up. Nobody here is making stuff up. No one said that Frank said he'll never play for Spurs again. But the fact that he hasn't made an appearance this season and he was ousted from the squad in general because of lateness and other disciplinary issues and being on balloons and stuff like that, and the fact that he hasn't been in the squad up until now, and Frank, notoriously, if you go back and look at, you know, his time at Brentford and stuff, he has a zero sort of dickhead policy, and he ousted from the squad. And it's been common knowledge that he was on the transfer, you know, list in the summer to be able to go out, only we couldn't strike a deal. And also, you know, he's still on the transfer list today. So I don't think anyone's making it up, but it's clear that Frank doesn't want him here, or he would have used him by now, Phil Spurs. So stick that one in your pipe and smoke that. But look, guys, we'll call it a day there. I really appreciate every single one here giving up their time, you know, to be able to come on here and chat Spurs with us. And it's certainly not easy when we're not in a good run of form. 3 wins in our last 14 games. Hopefully that changes today. Hopefully we can make it 4 wins in 15 and start heading up the table, because no one wants to be here at the end of the day. No one wants our season to be over this early. So hopefully we can start trending in the right direction. I want to say a massive thank you to all of you guys at home as well for tuning in. Really do appreciate you joining us for the last 2 hours, getting in there with your comments and everything else like that. If you could kindly smash the like button on your way out, that would be absolutely awesome. And then a massive thank you to Victoria Harris, THFC Till I Die, Faz Wadfar, Amweno as well, and also Lee Harvey. Really appreciate all of your guys' support. Guys, go and get yourself ready, get a sandwich, get a lunch, get some drink into you, and we'll be back here in half an hour's time for the fucking big day today. Hopefully we show up. Hopefully we can go and score goals, and hopefully we can start moving in the right direction. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Bubbles.
Come on, you Spurs.
Pop the bubbles.